Hey everybody, Zach Nordike here with you, founder of Evergreen Learning Center, another installment of Zero to a Million. We're going to talk about process changes today. And if this is the first time you're watching Zero to a Million, we are really focusing in on the entrepreneur journey from doing $0 in revenue to your first $1 million in annual revenue for your business. It's a really exciting part of the entrepreneurial journey. These are that's the driving force behind these videos. And in your zero to a million journey, process change, it's going to be a big part of, what you have to endure and encounter and obviously figure out. So let's talk about some of the things you're going to see as you implement process changes. One thing you're going to really figure out, just for the entrepreneurs out there, people hate change. It's a necessary part of life. It happens whether we want it or not, in all facets of life. But when you're running an early stage company and you're on this 0 to 1 million path, you are going to really figure out that as the team grows and there's more people and there's more opinions and there's more kind of styles, process becomes hard, or process changes become harder and harder. And when you have a few people that don't like the change, maybe you can appeal to them, in a way that's very customized. But when you have a broader base of people and you can't appeal to everybody's, the things that motivate people, or like you can't read the room because it's a large room as well anymore, you'll really figure out people hate change, and sometimes getting buy-in can be quite difficult. But I think it's really about this. Like, if people hate change, and if there's kind of the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, why change? Leveling up. You're going to be leveling up whether you want to or not. As you take a company from 0 to 50,000 in revenue, 50,000 to 100,000, 100,000 to $250,000, on and on and on. The way you operate, the way your team communicates, the way you do payroll, the way you recruit staff, the way you do literally every function conceivable, the way you do your accounting, maybe the way you interact with your attorney. All these processes, all these relationships, all the day-to-day happenings in your business will need to change. I'm just going to give you kind of what I'll consider a funny example looking back. It was like something I really didn't, I don't know if I thought it was funny. I just thought it was the best way to do it at the time, and it may have been. When we started to add contractors onto our team, right? Obviously, they would finish up whatever we needed them to do, and we would need to pay them. Some people wanted to be paid with a check. Okay. I don't know if anybody listening to this pays with a check, but that is slow and painful. If you have to mail it to someone, deliver it to their home, whatever you have to do, it's just such a hassle. I have no business checks right now. I hate doing checks. I'll never give anybody a check. But I can remember we had maybe 4 or 5 people at the time. I gave one person wanted a check to be paid. Another person wanted to be paid via Venmo. Another person wanted to be paid via Cash App. Another person wanted, I don't know, some other payment. Let's say it's Zelle or Apple Pay. I'm paying 4 different people through 4 different apps, having to get records of that pay, send it to the accountant. The accountant's like, asking follow-up questions. Some of the systems aren't designed to be able to easily get the information they need to log it. It sounds like a simple problem to solve, right? Just go to one unified way of doing things. But when you're just kind of scrambling and you're figuring things out, you don't think through it. So over time, we got wise and we started to use an ACH system, which is an electronic payment method. but it forced everybody to provide us with, we started to collect W-9 for the contractors. And when we were collecting that form, and we had it even before that, but we collected it again and we got it into kind of like a personnel management type of system. We switched things up. We started to collect a uniform set of documents on every person working with our organization. We then started to store that in a certain way. And then we conducted payments at a unified time of the month and through an ACH system. And that basically, it's just like a direct deposit is the way most people think of it. It electronically transfers money from our business account to the team member's account. But everybody had to get used to it. Oh, I have to wait to get paid? Yes. Oh, I can't get paid through Cash App anymore? Like, yeah, we're not going to be sitting here on a phone, on a Friday paying one person like this and then on a Tuesday paying. We came up with a unified time each month that we paid and a uniform system to pay out and a uniform approach to collecting documentation necessary to pay people and, have just all the supporting paperwork as to make them a contractor for our organization. I could have just kept going with that, but now our organization has 90 something people. That would have been a nightmare. It would have taken hours. The accuracy would have been, impossible to keep up with. That process would have snapped. We have to level up. Did everybody like that they had to wait for their payment? No. Did everybody, was it convenient for them just to have it on Venmo and do whatever? I'm sure it was. But we had to change to level up, to be able to make paying people just like a system that could live beyond, my control. And we had to bring some uniformity to it so we could do that more effectively. Maybe not for each individual person, at least not at first, but so we could grow our business, so more people could be added to the team, so there could be some systems, some predictability to what we're doing. You got to level up. And when you give, when you're deciding to level up, which it only seems like you're leveling up probably after the fact, don't give, whether it's one or two people you're working with or a lot more, don't give bad news in pieces. Don't try to shield people's feelings from changes that need to be made. Again, I'm just going to go to that change from the Venmo and a paper check and the Cash App, that transition. It wasn't like, guys, for the next 2 weeks, we're going to stay doing this. And then eventually we're going to change, but I don't want it to be too rough on you. It's not that I didn't want to sympathize with the team on the change. I just said, look, this is not sustainable. I'm having a hard time tracking it. The accountant's having a hard time tracking it. We've got to make a change. I apologize for the inconvenience that this is, that this could possibly be for all of you. We're going to do this, and we're going to start right away. And payments will be issued at this point. Was there a little pushback? I'm sure there was. I can't even remember. People were just happy that they were still going to get paid. It's like, yeah, they were upset, if they were used to getting something weekly that we went to monthly. But there was just, they understood, like, that's, out of business, with a business at the size that it was when we made that change, that probably didn't seem like a reasonable thing to do. And they understood it was wearing me thin. And if we were going to expand, like giving a little bit of grace to switch to a better system probably was the right move to do, but I just think that often we want to appease people and we don't want to make anything painful for them. But like, we have to like give them the bad news and we have to make the change. And we probably should avoid making the change in parts if we can. Like if you have a huge organization and it is a massive change, maybe you do it in different stages. But if it's a small group of folks that you've got, just make the change. Like rip the Band-Aid off. People will feel like they know what to expect then. Like, oh, when changes are made, they're made they do what they say. and the change is made, whether I'm fully on board with it or not. It's just like the news is delivered, might not be great news, and then the change is made. I think on that, similarly, obviously people aren't always going to be thrilled because we had it as a tip. People hate change. Don't not listen. Okay. And I guess that's a double negative. Make sure you're listening to critical feedback, right, on the changes. 100%, if you believe that's the best move for the organization and you got leveling up in your brain, and you know that like long term this is going to help the organization, it's going to help the people in the organization, obviously that's key. You've got to make the change. You've got to do what it takes. You've got to make the process improvement. Also, don't be so naive to think like just kind of top down being commanding and just silencing people is the way to go. There could be valuable input somebody that's opposed to the change has to give that makes you reconsider maybe not exactly what it is you're doing, but how you're going about it, right? For instance, if somebody was like, yeah, I understand that you want to go to a payroll system, but can we get paid every 2 weeks versus every month? I don't know. Maybe that's a valuable critique. They're not upset that you're switching from a cash app to an ACH system, but they think that the frequency of pay is going to impact them negatively because of the way their household expenses come due. I don't know. I'm just making something up. But make sure you're listening to the folks on your team that are critical of it and try to get that criticism into a day. Hold a meeting and say, hey, anybody got objections to this? Get them out on the table. You do not have to agree with everybody's criticisms of it, but make sure you're listening and noting, and make sure that whoever is opposed or has critiques is being listened to, and try to within like give yourself a cutoff time. Hey, I'm going to process this feedback, and tomorrow I'm going to make a final decision based on what I've heard here, and make the decision. Don't start waffling around and wavering and all this nonsense. Make sure you think through what's going to level you up. Make sure you give all the bad news because that's what it's going to be. Hey, folks, a change is coming. I apologize. I know that this could, be jarring to some of you. Here's what we're going to do. Get that on the table. Allow pushback to be, allow people on the team to push back. Do not suppress their criticisms or disappointment or whatever. Give them a time and a very set A to B time, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever you think is necessary, to give any negative feedback or any criticism that they want to it. Listen to it and try to come up with a concrete time, very soon after. Don't let it linger, where you're going to basically address it and just say, hey, after careful consideration, and I really appreciate the feedback, I've made these changes. Okay. But we are going with this. We are going to do this with the changes that I've heard here. If you had, some of the other points were great, we are not going to implement those at this point. This is the change, and this is the final form of the change, and this is when it's happening. Thank you so much. And it's not to be dismissive of people, but ultimately, an organization at a small stage is run by a handful of folks. You got to make decisions. They're not always going to be popular across the board. We can't always, have an ice cream sundae and a pat on the back for everybody. We try to, I think, be fair, just, scale the organization up, make sure, people who are getting contributing to the organization are getting recognized and compensated. But ultimately, the final decision is maybe one or two people's to make, and that has to be made after factoring in, other opinions. I think once that's been done, right, you've put the news out there that you're going to make a change. You've allowed for pushback. You've said, these are the thanks for the feedback. This is the way we're going to put the change into place. You also have to take the time to highlight what's good about it. And it can come in like a memo or an email to everybody, or, a message to the team. But just in bullets, Like celebrate improvement. Hey, now that we're doing payroll once a month, you can look for your payment on this date every month, and it's going to be directly deposited to you, and it will be available one day after deposit. And, this is going to take my administration time from 3 hours to 1 hour. And because we're saving more time, we're going to be able to concentrate more on marketing. And I expect a 10% increase in clientele next month. And if we have a great quarter, I think we can offer some type of bonus. And I'm not saying it should be that elaborate or you have to make these kind of sweeping, like, hey, everything's going to be perfect. And every time we make a change, I'm going to also try to come up with some type of incentive. But like anything you can do that celebrates what the change is going to do to improve the organization and hopefully impact positively team members that are working, as part of the organization, do it. 5 bullet points, 6 bullet points, some type of celebratory thing that demonstrates the value that the organization's going to experience for making the change, right? Like, don't leave it like, hey, this is only good for me, and sorry everybody else. Also, once you made a change, once you've heard the pushback, once you think you've you've taken into consideration feedback or pushback, and you've put it in and you've rolled it out and you've tried to celebrate the good points, don't think that you make a change and there's no room for tweaking whatever's been put out that may make people adjust again. It's going to happen. You're going to, who knows, switch to maybe you switch from using WhatsApp for communication to Slack for communication. I don't know. Maybe you switch from using Microsoft 365 products to Google. I have no clue. But maybe when you make that switch, people think like, ooh, it's over. I got a hang of it. And you have to introduce a secondary change just because there's still some type of refinement that you think could improve communication or financial, outcomes or whatever it is. It's okay. It's normal. Make the tweak, like continue to refine it, but try to help the team be on the same page with you as you're tweaking. Hey, I know we made this adjustment. I know it's been hard to kind of wrap our arms around it. There is one more thing. We're going to start to use on Zoom a particular channel for doing things, and make sure that after 8 p.m., you set your notifications to silent, just whatever. I'm not sure. And I know that's not really a change. It's just kind of like a individual preference thing. But whatever it is, like, not only did you make the change and people had to adapt to just a wholesale, I'm used to communicating here and I already got this app and I already have kind of a way I'm used to interacting with it. Now you've changed the whole interface and the whole way we're interacting and communicating. And now I have to abide by these certain principles about using specific channels and being careful of what time of day. I don't know what it is, but make sure that you're also not being so concerned that you've asked people to change that they can't change a little bit more once you made that initial change. I think it's fair to say, hey, I thought that we could get this to happen, but I still think that there's a bit more refinement. We're going to need a little bit more change. We're going to need a little more openness from everybody to get this just right and accomplish what we set out to do. Okay, so tweaking's normal. Just try to help people understand why that tweak is needed to kind of get the result that that you're attempting to get. I'm going to tell you, accept the blame. Okay, what do I mean by that? If people on your team would have the criticism, well, I really liked it better before, accept the blame. Hey, I know you did. And I agree. There were some features before. There were some things that we were doing before that's better. I'll take that. Or if somebody says, I really wish we would have put this in, this would have made this easier. Accept the blame. right? And if somebody comes with just the opposite, hey, wow, I'm really glad that change was made. Thank them, not because of you, but just thank them in a way that, lets them, hey, that's been so great the way you've embraced this, and you've been helping other people kind of get up to speed on it. I appreciate what you're doing. Try to take time not to say like, yeah, I told you all this was gonna work, and this was necessary. You all just didn't see it. Don't do that. Accept the blame and try to take as little credit, if no credit, as possible. And the reason being, that is not the last time you're going to ask people to make a change. That's not the last process improvement or process change that you're going to make. Accept the criticisms of what people think should have been done different. And also, if somebody buys into it and they say, wow, good call, trying to switch that conversation. I just think that this helps people really feel more bought in when the inevitable changes down the road come. Just let them know, well, I appreciate you. I know we had to take an hour to learn this, and there was a lot of hesitation, but you did a good job. You showed up, you were dedicated to figuring this out with us. You're really hitting it out of the park. Hopefully they are. Hopefully that's fair. But try to give the credit back if somebody's saying something that's focused on praising the change. Give it back to them, give it back to the team, so they can feel that ownership over, yeah, no, you made it. I'm glad that we thought that this was the right move. I know that there were some things we were concerned about, but just because you bought in and really made it happen, that we're seeing the gains that we are with it. So, appreciate you. And then just know that you might be the only one, or, like if you have a leadership team, that team that's leading the organization has to see the long game. Sometimes, when we have people working in different roles in our organization, they might not see the value of change. Even when you changed, if it helps them, they might not get it because they're focused on maybe more immediate outcomes or supporting a certain outcome in a particular way, and seeing the entire kind of the entire forest isn't part of their role, right? They're focused on a tree. Understand that you as the entrepreneur, founder, company owner, however you classify yourself, and the group that helps you make decisions, if you have one, you're going to be concentrated on the long game. And that's why process improvements and leveling up and process change is key. Don't expect everybody to get it, but also stay focused on your view of seeing the macro picture, seeing the big picture, seeing the long game. That has to be your role, and you have to really be able to evangelize and paint the picture clearly for folks that might not be kind of standing in the same, like they might not have your vantage point. Make sure it's applicable the way you're describing things to them. Obviously, paint the bigger picture, try to help everybody understand that, but just know you're playing a long game. People hate change. They're not going to ever love change, or it's unlikely that a collection of people are going to be like, oh yeah, boy, we were doing it this way yesterday and we're doing it this way today. I love it. No. That's not how groups operate. And certainly as groups grow in size, there's always such a large divergence in opinion and taste and preference and da. You got to stay concentrated on the long game, and you got to concentrate on doing what smaller and growing businesses do best, which is innovating. And it doesn't mean making a new technology, but it's saying, hey, this system made sense for us when we were 10 people, but now that we're 25, it doesn't make sense. Get rid of that old way of doing things and let's usher in the new way of doing things. While it's not an innovation like a new invention, it is innovating the way you do business, so your systems hopefully can work quickly and you can maximize everybody's energy that's in the business. Stay concentrated on how you make your business the most efficient, the most resource efficient, and I guess maximally long-term cohesion focused organization it can be. And I know that's a big kind of glob of words, but don't lose sight that you always are trying to make improvements to make sure that you are optimizing systems for current conditions. If you go from 3 people to 10 people, systems are likely going to change. When you go to 20 people, systems are likely going to change. Don't stay stuck in the past. Innovate. See the long game. Be prepared for next steps. Be prepared for future growth. Be prepared to serve at a higher level on all fronts. And just know inherently we're going to have to sell as the owners, the entrepreneurs, the founders, the executive leaders. We're going to have to sell this vision, the reason why we're doing these things to others. And again, if the role in the organization maybe another person plays doesn't require them to be as long-term focused, or doesn't they don't see the merits of the change that you're seeing, don't worry. Try to, again, make it as applicable as possible, but let them know we're going to be around for the next few decades. We've got to do this. Sorry for the inconvenience, but let's continue to row this boat. I think you're going to see that over time, this really makes your role a lot easier. You can concentrate on doing the work versus administrivia and whatever. This can take some stuff off your plate and allow you to concentrate more. We always have to be our best salesperson. So while we can't stop, people from hating change, we can embrace the things about change that are difficult, allow audience for criticisms. We can allow a certain time period for us to consider those critiques and criticisms and try to adapt. We can't be hesitant that even when we've given it our best shot and we thought we had the bugs worked out and all the kinks smoothed, that we're going to have to make tweaks to things. And we also have to accept the fact that once things have been tweaked and implemented, more changes are to come. So please accept the blame for things that don't go well and try to credit the team for things that do go well, because you have to have them really bought in for the long game. So with that said, that is my thought on process changes and, how to best implement those despite everybody hating change. Thanks so much, everybody. Talk with you soon.